So actionable analytics, we're all buried in data these days. There's so much data going on, and there's more and more and more. And you see all these things about how the amount of data that's being collected in the past however many days or months is more than in all of time before that. And we're supposed to know how to make sense of this and present this in a way that's meaningful towards people to make decisions. And it's not easy at all times. And so these 4 speakers are going to take 4 different approaches, strategic and tactical to a degree, to help give you ideas to think about how you can explain things to people better and actually, in a strategic way, better present your data. So as Will mentioned, we have 4 great charities. Everyone's charities, I'll just mention them now. Jocelyn Chen from here at Seer is Susan G. Komen. Dave Fryer from Domo, his is going to be code.org. Tim Wilson's is the United Way, and Leah Pika's is the Environmental Working Group. Sorry, the United Way. No, the Environmental Working Group. I'm sorry. You didn't come here to see me, so we're going to get things started right away. We'll have some time for Q&A at the end of the day as well. So after we get through all the speakers, we'll have everyone back up. So definitely keep your questions in mind that you want to ask these people, and then later on, hopefully you can come have a drink with them and ask them while they're a little bit drunk. So first up, we're going to have Jocelyn Chen. She's an analytics manager here at Seer. She actually came from St. Jude's in Memphis, where she somehow became, originally a New Yorker, became a massive Memphis Grizzlies fan, and now can, according to her, kick anyone's ass in NBA 2K on the computer. So she's threatened people with it. So Jocelyn.
Yeah. So I have started playing NBA 2K18. If anyone has started that, you can find me at the JC person. Yeah, we can play. We can ball. It'll be great. So hello, I'm here. My name is Jocelyn Chen, and I'm an analytics manager here. And I'm here to talk to you a little bit differently about how we approach digital analytics and, just digital overall. So in the beginning of digital, it was not unlike trying to, score at a bar. Sorry. Yeah. All right. So it was not unlike trying to score at a bar, getting out there, trying to get in front of people and, trying to get with people. And companies were super excited. Everyone was super hyped because you could get millions of sessions for not a lot of money, and you can get your message in front of the world. Companies thought they totally scored. But then, reality set in, and people started realizing that they couldn't actually see who their audience was. They could guess at some of the outlines. They could, assume that everybody wanted what they were offering, but it wasn't always the case. And then, of course, at the end of the day, the people involved didn't really know what happened. They saw how much money they spent, they saw how much money they made, and if it was good, they were great. If not, they just kept going. So while we are talking in, the olden days of digital, some core things remain the same. First off, development is still siloed by department. So marketing and user experience are often conceived completely separately. Most of the time, whenever they align, is really to just hit deadlines. And then we still have a pretty limited understanding of our audiences. Whether it's by design or the fact that we just don't want to buy the data or find the data, people don't really go out there and see what they can find out about this audience, and also don't connect it with what you can learn on your website itself. And then finally, we still have a very static definition of success. Marketing, again, is really based on ROI, and if you have positive ROI, you're good. If you get people through your user experience and you get through the funnel, sweet, you're good. But there's definitely more to that, and once it goes negative, people always know where to look. So I'm here to tell you that, it's not always about your company and what you're trying to get done, it's about your user. So the topic of my discussion today is knowing when you have game and the red flags for when your experience just ain't cutting it. And so that means getting data-driven across your entire experience. And I'm actually going to, if you didn't already catch my drift, bring this into perspective in terms of dating, and in particular, my online dating experience. So we're going to break it up in terms of the pickup line, score in digits, and the first date. And I will say, we talked about how at the beginning, Safe mentioned that this is supposed to be about data visualization. Spoiler alert, this isn't really quite about data visualization per se. I'm not going to tell you, based on this data set, this is the type of visualization you should use. But I am going to tell you, hey, this is the strategy you need to build out before in order to identify the metrics that you need to gather in order to tell that story. And so what you'll see today is examples of the good and the bad in both my dating experience and in the digital world, and then what metrics you should be using when you know you're doing well, and then when there's a red flag. Because no one should have to sift through this data Puhi dashboard. You don't know how many times I've seen, oh, great, let me set up some campaign metrics for you. Okay, I need this, sessions, page views per visit, time on site. That's not necessarily going to tell you if your campaign did well. So we're going to start at the pickup line, which is really getting attention in a good way. In the dating world, this looks like someone just being like, hi? Maybe at a bar, maybe online. No, situations vary. But in the digital world, it is, you've got 3 seconds to get my attention. So we're going to start, and we're just going to air out all of my dirty laundry in terms of dating, where our story begins in Memphis, Tennessee, January 2014, when I made an OkCupid account, and I encountered a man that I will call Mustache Man. And in the beginning, you know what? Let's just all accept it. It's about appearances and it's about looks. So this guy looked like Ewan McGregor, and I don't know about you guys, but that was super appealing to me. So it really does look good. Well, it helps when you look good and put together. You know, he's in a suit, his hair is all done, scruff is just right, important things. What does this look like in the digital world? It looks like having advertisement that is completely legible and has, you know, solid graphics. And also is able to scale depending on your browser size or device type. You know, it helps when you look good and put together. Of course, as much as it's great to have a pretty face, it's also important to have personality. And don't be afraid to show it. So it can be as simple as, oh, yeah. Oh, you guys are going to hopefully enjoy this, because we're going to talk about how, in the beginning, when I was talking to Mustache Man, I very specifically said, hey, if we're going to keep talking, I have to draw the line. No dick pics. And then he said, no promises. Probably should have been a red flag, but then he sent me this. Dick Cheney, Dick Van Dyke, and the multi-million-dollar producer. That's Dick Wolf of Law & Order and Chicago series, and actually 30 Rock fame as well. This is the clever way that you show your personality and draw people in. Okay, so what does this look like in the digital world? It can be as simple as just being eye-catching. So right here, just an ad where, hey, it's bright orange, catches my eye. And also, for those of us in digital, you notice, hey, this guy's happy. How did he get happy? Because I'm not always happy, and I want to be like him. And then also, he's got a succulent on his desk. I like succulents. That's awesome. And it looks like he's being fueled by coffee. Oh man, I even identify with this guy who's got glasses and a beard, maybe a younger version of Safe, whatever. This is the clever way that you draw people in terms of, identifying with your audience. And then it also helps when you acknowledge their interests. So bonus points here for Amazon having 3 different ads that are really relevant. This article is about, finding the most durable earbuds. And then the top ad is for, hey, headphone of the month, in case you haven't heard of this company. Great. And then the second one is, hey, because no one wants to pay retail, let's offer you 40% off. And then the third one is, hey, when you buy your earbuds with our awesome deals and our awesome recommendations, you can also listen with a 30-day free trial of Amazon Music. Bonus points there for being super relevant. So let's break this down in terms of metrics. On the surface, this looks like high click-through rate and high ad engagement. And then when you know you totally have scored is when you get transactions, those lead completions, and any sort of email signups or contacts. So what does this look like in Google Analytics? So you can't really see very well, but on this left-hand side is, like campaign ad ID. And then here we've got click-through rate and we have goal completions. That tiny one over there says that, hey, your average click-through rate is about 7%. And then top two have a click-through rate of 25% and 11%. That's awesome. But it's not just about click-through. It's also about, are you getting people to do what you want? Aligning that right next to goal completions and where you can see, oh yeah, people are clicking through and doing what I want them to do. That is all good stuff. But then we're going to go to the dark side, as you can imagine, the dark side of dating and the dark side of digital. You also need to remember who you're talking to and where. So fortunately, you can't read this very well, but this happened to a friend of mine. And got a message from a guy that we're going to call Big Ol' Sexy 47. It's very close to the name of his username, so yeah, that happened. So the message says, "You're so beautiful and you look like you'd be a great mom. I have 3 kids whose mom left them and I would think you would be a great with them. Would you like to go to the park sometime and meet them?" That's a lot, okay? So the person who is receiving this message, it's very clear on their profile, she's 25 and she's a teacher. And this is a classic example of people saying, okay, she's a teacher. That means she must like kids. And if she likes kids, she must want to be a mom to my kids. That's not logic that works, okay? So making those intuitive leaps and trying to get inside the heads of your audience is great, but don't just assume that one fact means you can go all the way through. So don't forget who you're talking to and where is really clear here with this article about something that I wouldn't do, but hey, doing a juice cleanse for the first time. And then you notice up top that Pop-Tarts has new flavors that are Jolly Rancher flavored. You guys got to give me a chance, okay? Because I'm just trying to do a juice cleanse and trying to get there, and then you're telling me that Pop-Tarts have Jolly Rancher flavors. That's a lot. And so making sure you remember who you're talking to is super important. And then, don't worry, Big Ol' Sexy 47 is back, and he wouldn't stop. This is a classic example of when you don't segment your remarketing audience and you don't know when no means no. So in this case, she hasn't responded. I don't even remember if they actually send like a red receipt or anything like that, but she's clearly not interested. So making sure that you understand the difference between people who may not be ready to convert versus people who want nothing to do with you and what you're offering, just keep those separate and keep an eye on groups. So in the digital world, my example actually goes with SiriusXM. I don't know how many of you have gotten a new car recently, but a lot of the times when you get a new car, you get 6 months free of SiriusXM or one of those guys. In this case, that has passed for me over 18 months ago. And then they send me this email where big letters, "Please do not ignore," and a smiley face, which just doesn't quite do it for me. This is clearly not segmenting your remark audience. And I'll take it even further to understand how I really have not been engaging with them at all. So this is my Gmail inbox where I received 2 emails in one day, a little too much. Then I've gotten an email per day from them for nearly a week. Finally, they hit me old school and sent me a letter here in Philadelphia, which, hey, they tracked down my address because I just moved from Memphis, so that's creepy. Y'all need to step back. And then finally, they've also called me in the last 3 months. That's a lot. Just be careful in terms of how much messaging you're getting out there because there's a chance that you're doing more harm than good, especially when it's someone who is not engaging with you at all. So let's break this down into what these metrics look like. On the surface, it looks like high delivery but low click-through rate. So you're getting in front of a large group of people, but no one's really engaging. Whatever message you're offering is just not quite doing it. Then it's also low open rate for emails, and then just low engagement rate if you're dealing with anything like social. And then when you totally have failed is if you get unfollows, you get blocks, and heaven forbid you get spam complaints, because not gonna lie, I might have hit the spam button on Sirius. So what does this look like in Google Analytics? Again, super small, apologize, but we've got a very similar set of data right here. So we've got your campaign ID, and then over here we've got impressions, and then we've got click-through rate. So in this case, average click-through rate, is about 7%. And then there's actually, a couple of different areas where the click-through rate is closer to 1% and 2%. That's a big delta there. So when there's a red flag, when you see people getting or see ads getting lots of impressions, but really low click-through rate. All right, so we gotten the first phase where it's all about appearances and hopefully a first impression. But now we're going to move on to the next step, which is score in digits. You got the click, what are you going to do now? So in the dating world, this looks like someone saying, hey, all right, you have my number, fine, we'll start talking. And then in the digital world, it looks like, okay, I'll listen to what you have to offer. So we actually have another person entering in my dating life who I will call Superhero Stan. I don't know how many of you guys have done online dating, but you are allowed to answer a couple of questions to make sure that you guys are compatible. So one of the questions that I answered was, what genre of movies are you interested in? And I love superheroes. So one of the things I specifically put out there was that despite the movies and whatnot, one of my favorite superheroes is John Stewart Green Lantern. And Superhero Stan reached out and said, okay, I understand that you must be a DC fan, but I'm more into Marvel, so I like X-Men. And then he asked me who my favorite supervillain was. That's awesome because, hey, he took the information that he already had about me and that was already available and was ready to talk about it immediately. That's making a connection, and that's indicating that, hey, we might be a good fit. So what does this look like in the digital world? So first off, I will tell you that you're just going to learn so much about me right now. I have 2 cats and a rabbit at home, and the top thing that I have to deal with is not only like, hey, I have to pay for food, hey, I have to clean up all that poop. I have to deal with a ton of cat hair. And the first thing that I saw as I was scrolling through my Facebook feed was actually this ad for, a cat vacuum for grooming. It was a video, it automatically played, and actually, okay, the cat didn't look like it was absolutely going to attack whoever was using that vacuum. Okay, so you know what, and they're offering me 50% off, I'll click through. And they took me directly to the product that they were talking about, because this company has tried to hit me before with those little cat stickers you put on the back of your car and with all of that crazy stuff. I try not to show that I'm a crazy cat lady, but if it comes down to, eliminating the hair over my house, I'm interested. And then I scroll a little bit further and I see the description, which specifically says that, hey, this vacuum is specifically designed and has been tested on multiple different breeds of cats that, hey, they like it, it's super quiet, and it encourages a relaxing environment. Don't know if that's true, but you know what? Thanks for letting me know, and thanks for at least telling me that it should work out for me. Paying attention and be ready to talk immediately to some of your users' concerns is super helpful right from the ad. So what does this look like in terms of metrics? On the surface, it's high click-through rate and low bounce rate because whatever you said in the ad was interesting enough to them to explore more, and they stayed on the page and the site long enough to, actually start to engage. Also, if you're doing things right, hopefully you have a, call to action on your landing page and people are clicking on it. And then finally, depending on how your site's set up, high scroll depth is super good because you're actually getting people to look through the product information, any sort of questions that you have there, or any sort of reviews. And then ultimate score, again, is conversions, lead completions, and maybe if you have a really cool product, social shares. Not gonna lie, I shared it with my boyfriend who, needs to know I might be buying this vacuum for our cats. It's my money, I can do whatever I want. So what does this look like in Google Analytics? It can be really simple in terms of a dashboard where you've got, something right here where it's just campaigns by click-through rate. And so you can really easily see which campaigns have a high click-through rate. Next to that is bounce rate. So high click-through rate, low bounce rate. Anything below 50%, I'm feeling pretty good. But you should compare it to whatever works on your site. And then next to this, we've got, just a quick widget for events after someone has clicked from a campaign. So they're actually doing what I want them to do here from these campaigns. That's exactly what I want. So we see scroll depth, we see people clicking, and we see people starting the forums and engaging with different pieces of media. That's exactly what we want them to do. This is all the information I need in order to understand that. Now let's go to the negative side, and we're back to Mustache Man. So we're ready to go on our first date, and he's trying to, reach out in terms of where should we go? So he says, hey, I'm thinking sushi, somewhere close by. What do you think? Asian female, pretty likely that I like sushi. Sweet deal. I'll go for it. I tell him, okay, yeah, I'm down. I live in the downtown area if you have any recommendations. And then he says, oh, I'd rather go to this specific place and in a city that's actually like 45 minutes away from where I specifically said I was. Like, this is saying one thing but doing another. He wants to be like helpful and wants to meet me and he wants to go somewhere close by and then realizes, no, I just want to go close to home to the place that I already like. Saying one thing but doing another. What does this look like in the digital world? It's when your ad says learn more and then you drop them somewhere like this, just like your shopping page with nothing specific there. I can't tell you how many times I've seen this and just been, oh, come on, people. It's so easy to just drive people directly to what they were looking at. Then, of course, there's the dreaded clicking on learn more and sending them to your homepage. And nowadays, it's really popular to have a giant hero image with no information included. That's not helpful. That's not helping me learn more. And then finally, people who try a little bit and try to send people to a landing page, but only send them to a contact form. This is not providing me additional information for how I need to learn more about what you're offering me. This is saying one thing, but doing another and not connecting your call to action and your advertisement to whatever you're sending to them to. It's just crazy. It seems basic. So actually, this has happened to me. I don't know how many of you guys know Daily Harvest. Hopefully none of you work for them, but that's okay. So I got a Facebook ad saying, hey, get 3 free smoothies. All right, I dig free stuff, and I dig free smoothies. So, okay, I'm going to click through. And then I get a landing page, and there's nothing there about free. They're just sticking me in this area where, hey, you can start ordering your stuff, but no mention of free. Like, come on, guys. Got to connect what you're offering me on the front end to whatever I see in your landing experience. So, red flags, not just my annoyance, but actual data. It looks like on the surface, high click-through rate, but high bounce rate. So people who are interested in what you have to offer, but land on your page and don't know what to do and just leave. They're not interested enough to keep searching. Then there's also just high ad engagement, but low clicks. And then also high site exit rate. So maybe they clicked through a couple times to try, but they haven't added anything to the cart. They haven't even entered the purchase funnel. And the ultimate fail is if you get a decrease in return visitors over time. So the whole point of advertising is to get more people to the top of your funnel. And if you're not getting those people to keep coming back, I don't know what you're trying to do with your money, but you ain't spending it right. And then finally, negative reviews, if anybody was really pissed off about their experience. So what does this look like in Google Analytics? It's pretty simple. It's looking at campaign performance, looking at click-through rate and bounce rate, and then looking at return visitors and actually seeing that we have a decrease in return visitors over time. So putting all these things together in something as simple as a Google Analytics dashboard is a first way to keep a pulse on all of this information. And when you see this kind of stuff, this is a red flag. And finally, looking a little bit deeper, and hopefully you've got some of this information already, is looking at an exit page from campaign report. And so you can see that right here, somehow this create account step is messing with people, and a lot more people are exiting from that. In Google, it looks like when more exits are happening, it's in green, but we all know that's wrong if it's not where you want people to edit, and it's before they've gotten to a step where you want them to be. So, red flag. All right. So we've started to, we've got people interested, we've gotten them onto the site. Now let's talk about what it looks like on the first date, where you meet or exceed expectations. So what does this look like? In the dating world, it's like, okay, you know what? We can get coffee and we can get drinks, which very specifically has a time limit, so you can see if, like, they're a serial killer or not, or, see if, hey, okay, I can handle going to a full dinner to have a conversation with them. In the digital world, it's, okay, I'm willing to connect directly with you to see what you're all about. And we're back to Mustache Man, who suggested I go all the way out to the suburbs in order to get sushi. I try to, compromise with him, and I say, hey, that's a bit of a drive for me. Is there any places, that we can meet halfway? And he said, oh, well, you know what? If you come all the way out here, I'll even pay for dinner. That probably should have been a red flag for me, but I like free sushi and I like free things, so it happens. But you know what? It's just a little too far, and it's just a little too much effort for me to go through in order to get this free sushi. But I did it anyways. So I drove the 8 miles to get all the way out there, and I see him, and he looks like a doughy version of Chuck Norris. And like, come on, all of his pictures made him look like Ewan McGregor. That's very different from Chuck Norris, and especially like a doughy version that doesn't have the muscles. It was a real disappointment there. And then finally, as we were walking into the restaurant, the parking lot, we passed by his truck. And he tells me that, hey, I don't have a license plate because, you know what, the actual fine in Memphis is cheaper if you don't have a license plate versus having an expired one. What kind of information is that to start on a date? Like, just completely unnecessary. So making people go out of their way and failing to meet their expectations and providing them way too much information that you didn't need to know, this is what it looks like, and it's super unfortunate. But you're not here to hear about my dating experience. You're here to hear about, how this works in digital. So we're back to Daily Harvest. I really like free things, as you've learned so far, so I click through and say, okay, let's get started. And they want my contact information. Still no mention of free smoothies. Okay, I'm going to persevere and I'm going to try to get these. And I have to go through 2 more pages, at which point they try to tell me that, hey, you actually have to order 6 of them. You only get 3 of them free. The other 3 you have to pay for. And also we're going to charge you more if you don't buy, a bigger volume. That's rude, honestly. Like, if you are going to make me pay for something, let me know up front, or let me know sometime in this process before I get all the way over here to trying to actually order this stuff. Oh yeah, I have proof. So let's just to remind you, 3 free smoothies, no mention of having to pay for anything. I know Facebook ads are really short, but hey, you gotta do something for me here. Making people go out of their way and failing to meet expectations. That is a surefire way to turn people away. So what does this look like in terms of metrics? On the surface, it's exits from review pages because people are clearly not, happy with their product, or it's not meeting up with their expectations. People adding things to your cart but abandoning them, having a high conversion start, but a low completion, and then high fallout throughout the funnel. And the ultimate failing is if you even got the conversion, people who return or cancel, and then again, people who are super upset about not getting free smoothies will leave negative reviews. So what does this look like in Google Analytics? If you guys have, enhanced e-commerce or any of these e-commerce funnels set up, you can really easily look at the steps. So here we've got add to cart, billing information, shipping, all of that fun stuff. But then you see really clearly the big drop-off between shipping info and confirmation. What's going on there? That's not like entering your billing information. Something about that shipping info step is tripping people up. That's how you know where you're kind of failing, and that's where you know where the red flag is. All right, so don't worry. It's not about me ragging on other people and about ragging on Daily Harvest. This is a good example, all put together. So being relevant, helpful, and adding value through the customer experience. If anyone has guessed, that is Amazon for me, because I have a major crush on Amazon. So I'm a big researcher when it comes to purchasing products. So right now I'm in the market for a really good pair of headphones. So I'm looking at a pair of Audio Technicas, and then I see at the top, oh wait, there is an ad for an offer. 20% off top headphones and speakers if I sign up free trial of Audible. Super clear, super upfront. I know I have to do something in order to get it. All right, I'm interested. I like, getting 20% off and not paying retail. So I click through. And then really quickly, Amazon has, a very specific, very upfront, hey, this is what you have to do in order to qualify. So first it says, hey, you're not going to be able to use this on products like Bose, Sony, Sennheiser, or Beats. Okay, not looking at those brands, so it works for me. Also, they tell me when the offer expires. And then up top, they've actually updated the search function. To search for the 20% off headphones and other products. They actually made it a part of the feature, and they made it really easy for me to see if my headphones qualified for this offer. Setting expectations and keeping it simple and having all of those expectations up front, super helpful for people, even if it doesn't look necessarily super pretty. So I click through and I start searching. And then I see actually, instead of just looking at a list of products that qualify, they have added an additional filter to the existing search function. That is being super helpful because not only do I get to see, all of the headphones that qualify, but then I get to see, the specific brands that they have and that they qualify for. So I looked at Vmoda. They can also sort them by average review or like average price. So making it a part and integrating with the existing functionality, super helpful, making it easy and setting expectations up front. And then unfortunately, I have some sad news for Amazon because I was using the Amazon app and I usually assume that I can do everything in there. But when I clicked through and tried to get the 20% off, I saw that I can't sign up for the Audible trial in the app. I have to go outside and go on my mobile browser or on my desktop. I mean, I can handle that, okay? So I already know that I'm getting 20% off. It qualifies on the product that I want, and I can do it right now. So if you're going to make people jump through hoops, make it worth their while. All right. Whoa. So what does this look like in terms of metrics? On the surface, this is high volume of product impressions, PDF downloads if that's your thing and you have more research for people to look at, multiple review page views, and then high volume of add to cart. And then when you really have scored is same-day transactions. This, I put an asterisk on there because you know what? It's not always feasible for your company. I work with a couple of clients where you're dealing with more than just $200 on a credit card. You're dealing with $20,000 maybe in a purchase order or on someone else's credit card. So if same-day transactions isn't feasible for you, just make sure you pay attention to the length of time that it takes to get to the end transaction. So what does this look like in Google Analytics? It's actually really simple. You can see the time lag in days to conversions and to transactions. Hey, you see already we've got 71% of people transacting in the same day. You got this. This is good. This is a good sign. So it's really simple to keep an eye on this, and if any of those metrics change, be ready to investigate what's going on there. All right, so we put this all together. The pickup line, score in digits, and the first date. If we align this because I'm going to make my attempt at making visualizations, this looks like having impressions, engagements, and clicks in the front end, and then bounce rate, clicks on the landing page, call to action, and maybe even scroll depth. And then first date, it's getting those people to contact you, getting those lead completions, and getting conversions. So one way to visualize this besides my fancy circles, looking at it in terms of a funnel. So we've got impressions, engagements and clicks, active visits, so people who actually land on your page and do something, and then all of the conversions that you possibly want, along with the related rates that you might want to take a look at in order to keep a pulse on things. So this is just one way to visualize and also a way to develop your strategy because you need all of these metrics to explain if you've done well. And then making sure that you check on these metrics, not just at the beginning, not just at the end, but all the way throughout your process. So in the campaign planning phase, and also developing a measurement strategy at the front end of your campaign is super critical, because you're going to need to implement stuff in order to get that information. And then make sure you check on these metrics during your campaign and when you're evaluating success at the back end, and even to set a benchmark and build a better campaign moving forward, because you're actually learning what's working and what's not throughout the full customer experience. And then you can zero in on where you might be able to improve moving forward. So my moral of the story for today is, hey, we got to stop marketing blindly. Get to know those people, maybe shine a light on them, and you might find out that those people are under the influence of something, and you may not want to be reaching out to them. And we got to get hyped about not just reaching lots of people, but about making quality connections, because these people are more than just digits. You know, they're real human beings with real problems that you're trying to solve for them. Because it's not just about getting the first date, but being able to invest in a long-term relationship. Thank you, guys. And I have a little bit of time for questions if you have any.
Yep. Hello. We have some time for questions, if anyone has anything. I like my question. Well, first of all, like I'm just so glad that I'm old enough that I didn't have to deal with online dating. But what, you know, when we talked about this before, and I was thinking about like what kind of mistakes people make with the bad dashboards and vanity metrics and things like that. Like when someone is looking at their own customer journey for other people, like what do you think is like sort of like one of the biggest mistakes that people make as far as how they're dealing with their data?
Yeah, so a lot of the times people really look at campaigns and experience completely separately. And my biggest pet peeve is that, you know, you're not focusing on the people you're advertising to and what kind of experience they need. I'm not talking about, you know, getting fancy personalization tools or anything like that, but even just making something a little bit easier for them and getting the mindset of who your audience is and what their problems are. So getting more strategic and not thinking necessarily about the numbers and who's going to drive the most clicks and who's going to drive, you know, the most revenue. Focus on how you can add value to those people, and then they will give value to you. So that happens a lot with dashboards, and being able to chart that out and weed out all of the noise, because you know what, you don't really need to know average time on site if it's not important to you or if it's not going to change over time. Any other questions? If you wanted, oh, yeah, go ahead. Hold on, I think we got a mic.
Hi. So in terms of reporting for your clients, I know you showed the GA dashboard at the beginning. What does reporting look like in a way that makes it really easy for your clients to understand, and a way to really present that data?
Yeah, so a lot of the times I am using something similar to that funnel that I show you guys, but I'm using it in something like Data Studio, where you can actually manipulate a lot of the data that, or a lot of the choices that a client can make in order to understand. So having that funnel, but then being able to filter by what channel are you focusing on, what particular campaign are you focusing on, what time frame. So that's how I usually try to enable people with data, and then also just explaining them this, because clients and people understand in terms of, you know, each of these steps. And you can borrow my idea about data, you can do it whatever way you want, but, you know, explaining it in terms that's not just metrics and data points has really been helpful. Any other questions? I will say, I was talking to my boyfriend about this, and he wanted to, I was really struggling with how to end the presentation. He said, well, you need to talk about me. So I entered in Superhero Stan, and actually we've been together for about 3.5 years. So it works out. Online dating actually works. And hopefully you'll be okay with, you know, combating that negative stigma, because what's great about meeting someone at a bar, you know, online dating, you at least have, you know, more information about them. So fully supported. All right. Well, I'm going to pass it off.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jocelyn.